Okay, we are back. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here with Andrea Kay and Urban Morris. And we have our next guest of the day. We have actually two with us today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're filling up the room.
Heck yeah, the more the merrier.
That's right. We have Susan Forster and Justin Chimento. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Welcome. So tell us, you're with Coastal Pacific Real Estate. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes, well, Justin and I own Coastal Pacific Real Estate. We're in wonderful La Jolla, right in the village, across from...
Oh, you poor thing.
I know, it's terrible.
Across from George's at the Cove.
Yeah.
So we can just dash at any point.
Uh-huh.
Great. So now, what type of real estate practice is it?
We do residential, commercial, investment real estate.
Okay.
Now, what does that mean, residential, commercial, investment real estate?
Let's say you want to invest in an apartment building, or recently we've sold a warehouse. We sold Starbucks Shopping Center in Bird Rock. So if you want an investment, we're the people to come see.
If you want to buy one or sell one or both?
Both.
Okay.
Great. Great. So working with real estate investors, we have a lot of mutual connections there, so that'll be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. You know what? One of the things we talked about before the show was you do a lot of work with new people getting into the business.
We do. We actually help license new people right in our office on Tuesday evenings. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually use, like, my husband went to UCLA, so I had the idea it's a hospital and a teaching hospital. So a real estate agent and a teaching real estate office.
Interesting.
Okay.
Now, why? Why dedicate time to bringing new people into the industry?
You know, eventually, people really need to be trained. And if you're training new agents, it's so rewarding because they feel empowered when they have more knowledge. A lot of new people are frightened to go out and sell because they don't understand what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we go pretty in-depth during the licensing program. They come away knowing what an exchange is, a 1031 exchange, regarding investment property. Some of the tax implications when they buy and sell their own residence. So it's a knowledge-based course. They become licensed. Currently we have, even we were talking with the attorneys earlier, we have a couple of attorneys in our class.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I see a lot of attorneys getting into the real estate business, or the real estate attorneys to be, consultants for that too.
Yes, there's actually a degree in university now for real estate, which there wasn't before.
Right.
Okay.
So let's go back to while we're there on the new licensees. One of the things I see with real estate people getting started is, they may be able to adapt on things from a school or an education or a startup standpoint, but, how do they learn how to deal with all the ins and outs of the real estate business? I look at it as though real estate agents really need to be like, let's call it closers in baseball, okay, where they find a lot of rejection. Sure. And they need to learn how to deal with it. Do you work with that? Absolutely.
We actually do it with them. We're partners. So if they have a client or a lead, we work it together. So the client has the advantage of an enthusiastic new person, okay, and a highly trained, experienced agent.
Great. So, this is a majority of your business. I shouldn't say majority, but it's a very strong piece of your business.
It's a very strong piece. I've done this for 40 years. I owned a company in Santa Cruz and in Hawaii, and it was interesting because a lot of times, most people are recruiting top talent, and it's just back and forth. They always think the grass is greener. Mm-hmm. Well, it may not be greener. What they're really looking for is education and help and that sort of thing. So if you grow a new agent or train a new agent, they're confident, they're loyal, and their profession can just become a practice.
Interesting. So, I'm looking at some of the notes that we have here, some of the things to talk about on air, and one of them is revolving around people that a lot of times you'll buy a home as your residence, then you'll outgrow it, you'll go to another one, and then it turns into a rental. What happens? How do you deal with people there? There's a lot of tax implications that change from a owner occupied to a rental property, aren't there?
There really is. You turn your home into a rental, and it depends if you have it for 2 years, out of the last 5 years, it's your home. Maybe you want to rent it, and you've owned it for 3 years. So now it's a rental and a home. You can actually take the exemption, the 121, and exchange the top portion into an investment property. And that sounds kind of complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do two things with your home if you decide to change its status or use. And that's all based on what you filed on your taxes.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And then you have things like a second home as well. So actually, before we go to that, let me just ask you real quick on getting the exemptions. Does say there's an exemption that you get to sell your primary residence after, it doesn't even have to be after 55. You can sell it anytime and take the capital gains as a tax-free.
Anytime now, and as long as you've had it for 2 years. And you can do this consecutively throughout life.
Right.
Own the home for 2 years, sell it. Anyone that's in ownership has a $250,000 exemption.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're married, you have a $500,000.
Is it automatically married, or does it have to be tied in with a family trust?
Doesn't have to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And trusts are a little more complicated.
So if somebody, I'm thinking of a client of mine up in Laguna Beach that has a very high-end home, and then he also had a condo in downtown L.A. Which he'd spend time at the condo because he was working down there.
Sure.
Right. So now he's selling. Does he want to sell the condo and take the exemption? Can he take the exemption as a second home?
You cannot. You can only take it on your home, but then you can move into your second home.
Right.
And then take the exemption.
Right.
Again.
Interesting.
It gets complicated.
Interesting.
So complicated. I'm wondering if you're one of the few real estate professionals who understands all these ins and outs. I mean, is this part of your specialty?
It really is. We work with the clients, professionals, other attorneys, and make sure, because we don't practice law or tax, we're just aware of it. So we make sure we do the interview when we go to list a property or sell a property, how they've held the property, what use is on their tax returns. I mean, on their tax returns, it may say one thing, and what they're telling us, another. So you really have to do the research, and that's the fun part. You discover all kinds of things.
Well, hopefully we don't have any more stories like Wes, in the real estate business, but... Anyway, you're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business here on KCBQ, streaming live at AM 1170, theanswer.com. Give us a tweet at CloseUpSD. Email me at Barry@CloseUpSanDiego.com, or find our page on Facebook. We want to hear from you. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here with my co-host, Andrea Kay, and Urban Miaris, and our guest is Miss Susan Forster from Coastal Pacific Real Estate. So if I'm looking at more of the things that you do, and thank you very much for all these notes on, how do we educate our clients, in the real estate business. Okay. Obviously I can't do it because I'm not a real estate person, but things like the tax base. Okay. Now many people don't realize that once they hit 55, things change or things potentially change.
Yes.
In the tax base.
Yes. When you're 55 or older, you have a one-time exemption. Basically, you can sell your home, and you can take that property tax. Let's say you've been in your home for 25 years. You can take that original tax base with you to your replacement property. And that replacement property has to be equal to or less than the home that you recently sold, if you track all of that. Great advantage for people 55, and only one spouse needs to be 55.
Great.
And you can't do it again, even though you're the younger spouse.
And so it's a one-time only.
One time only, except if you became disabled lately.
Okay.
So then you can do it again.
I have never heard of that before.
And that's then a 110, which is a little different. Yeah.
Well, there's another thing that I'm looking at in the notes that I want you to talk about, because I see this. I have clients come to me frequently, with this kind of information. But, using the 1031 tax-deferred exchange,
right.
When would somebody, and I guess to explain, I'll tell you, why don't we start out, tell us what the 1031 tax-deferred exchange means, and then I'll fire my question at you.
Yeah, 1031 tax-deferred is exactly the opposite from a homeowner. It's a person that has an investment property. Has nothing to do with your home ownership. You're buying an investment property. Let's say we sold the Starbucks shopping center. Our gentleman, we listed it. He sold it. He had to put his proceeds or gain into another property or pay tax. This is in California. It's California federal tax. It's state tax. And one other thing occurs, recapture of the depreciation that you took. Again, you have to look at the tax professional to analyze what they've done. But if he puts that profit into another property, he defers paying all of that tax.
Okay.
So you can roll it up into another property and roll it up as many times as you need over the years.
Yes. Generally speaking, you want to hold it for a year or a little more.
And the tax deferred, or the 1031 rules are, what is that, about an 18-month process maximum?
It is.
Yeah, okay. So 18 months, and it's only for investment property. And I guess the other question that I have is, do tax professionals keep track of all the numbers? You know, you talk about recapturing depreciation and what have you. Do tax professionals keep that information in, or is that something that has to come from escrow or wherever?
You know, they're tax professional, hopefully, and it's really determining what they've done on their tax report. So we take a good look at that, and the professional will look at that and tell us, basically, you know, you have this much recapture, and you're going to have to pay tax on that if you sell. So it's fun because recently with the medical, I guess it is the Obama tax, it's 15% generally capital gains. It's gone to 23.8 if you're in a certain high bracket.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a difference. And
well, there's a high percentage of people, if they have income property like we're talking about, they're doing a 1031 exchange, you know, they're typically going to be higher income anyway.
Yes, absolutely. Unless you've converted your condo into a rental and you were a student and now you're buying your first time home.
Right. Interesting. You know, before we go too far, tell our listeners how they find out more about Coastal Pacific. We
are right on Prospect. Like I said before, we're across from George's at the Cove, a lovely restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so we're at 1237 Prospect. Sweet G like good.
Okay.
Ooh, and it is good to be in downtown La Jolla.
Good it is.
Now, has your office always been there, or were you at other locations?
We were actually on Herschel, not too far away, for 8 years. We were with Prudential for several years.
Okay.
So we've always been in La Jolla.
Yeah.
Okay, always been in La Jolla. And market area, you have quite a few agents, correct?
We do. We have about 43. We have several agents and a few brokers.
Okay.
Wow, that's a large office.
Yeah.
It is. We're pretty virtual, though. We have 2 suites, G and H, for house. So our agents are in and out, and they're generally with their clients. You know, today's life, you're on a tablet or a computer or a phone mainly.
Yeah.
Well, with all the virtual market out there, I mean, obviously you can't be too virtual in real estate because you have to show property and you know, you have to get there live. But I guess the question I have is, what kind of market area do you service at Coastal Pacific?
We service everything, even out of San Diego County, because some of our clients, we have one in Bakersfield right now. We just got a closing from up north, Santa Cruz area. We service all kinds of clients wherever they take us. But generally speaking, we stay along the coast because that's the highly appreciated real estate that requires a 1031. Or a home in La Jolla, say you bought it 30 years ago for a couple $100,000. That's a lot of money then.
Right. I'd like to be one of them people.
Yeah. It may be $2 or $3 million now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they're above that 500 exemption if it's a married couple. So what do they do beyond that? There's actually something called a 121 1031 bifurcation. They can turn their home into an investment property and keep the 500, put it in your pocket, and then buy an investment and exchange the top portion of their house, if they've treated it as an investment property or a rental, which is easy in La Jolla because you just turn it into a vacation rental and get 4 times what the normal rent is during the season. But you may know about vacation rental along the coast and in Mission Beach, PB, probably 3 to 4 times the normal rent to rent your house out for a week.
Interesting.
Run to Europe and rent out your house.
Well, I had thought about that with the house I had. I used to own a house on Del Mar Heights, a large one, and I had thought about doing that, but for some reason I decided to just sell the property. So, interesting. So, we're running short on time. Tell our listeners one more time how to get a hold of you. Do you have a website that would give people, a preview of some of the things you do?
We do. It's www.coastalpacificre.com.
Great. And so I encourage all of our listeners to, you're a real estate office, so you like to have people stop by, right?
We love it.
Great. So go over, have lunch over at George's, and stop across the street and get your parking validated. How's that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Barry.
Great. You're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business here on KCBQ, streaming live on AM1170theanswer.com. Send us a tweet at CloseUpSD or just find our page on Facebook. And you can always email me at barry@closeupsandiego.com. Let me know what you think. I'm your host, Barry Waxler. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.